All right, Dalton, next up in our Big Ten preview is the Maryland Terrapins, who had their third straight winning season last year in 2023, going 8-5, winning the Music City Bowl as well. They haven't had three straight winning seasons in about 2 decades, right? So it's been a really, really good 3-year stretch from Mike Locksley as the head coach. But if they're going to make it 4 in a row, they got to find an answer at quarterback because 4-year starter Talia Tungavailoa is now gone. They have an ongoing quarterback battle right now between Billy Edwards Jr., who was last year's backup, and NC State transfer MJ Morris. They do have some nice skill position players to help out the new starter, like Roman Hemby, who we'll talk about in a little bit. Their running back, wide receivers Ty Felton and Caden Prather are pretty good receivers as well. And they have some really good talent on the other side of the ball, too, in their secondary, which I think is really the biggest strength of the team, is the secondary. They had a top 20 coverage grade in the country last year at 89.2, and they bring back 3 defensive backs who played at least 300 snaps last year. And they added a really, really good corner in the transfer portal in Bowling Green's Jalen Husky, who had an 83.1 PFF grade for the Falcons last year at Bowling Green. So really good secondary last year. They bring back 3 guys from that unit, and they added Jalen Husky as well. So really good secondary. I think that's their biggest strength of the team. The biggest weakness, though, and we'll get into it, they have a complete unknown at quarterback, man. Complete unknown. Because for the first time in 5 years, Talia Tungavailoa will not be the starting quarterback for Maryland. The battle to replace him, like I said before, is going to be between redshirt junior Billy Edwards and NC State transfer MJ Morris. Both those guys earned sub 55 passing grades in backup roles last year, though MJ Morris did it on 106 more dropbacks. So when they were out there, neither of them looked really good. But we think right now, Dalton, the starter will probably be Billy Edwards Jr. We'll of course keep an eye on it as we head into to fall. But tell me more about him as the projected new starter for the Terrapins.
Yeah, so we saw him a little bit last year. It's very clear that he's a pretty good athlete, right? Look, it's not going to be easy to replace the Big Ten's all-time leading passer, by the way, in Talia Tagovailoa. But, you can see he's got traits, right? He's got good speed. He's about 220 pounds. And if you take out kneel downs, he's forced a missed tackle on 13. He's forced 13 missed tackles, I should say, on 52 career rushes. So, he's a good runner. You can very clearly see he's a good athlete. He's got a pretty good arm. He would fit best as just that dual threat piece who you can work, I think a lot on bootlegs, on design rollouts and design run game, and kind of have to manufacture your way through it. He's not as good a pure passer as Tagovailoa was. Now, that's going to be the issue because they did go in there and they trounced Auburn in their bowl game, and he ran for, I think, if not 100 yards, pretty close to it. They did it with the run game, and they showed they could win with that. But he only completed 6 of his 20 passes in that game against Auburn, and only one of them went beyond 10 yards, and that ball was actually tipped and should have been picked off. So there are serious, serious issues, at least from what we've seen so far, with Edwards' accuracy throwing the football. He doesn't really set his feet very well in the pocket. The ball is it's almost random where it's going, I'll be honest with you. He's got a good arm, he's got traits, but if he doesn't significantly improve his accuracy and his footwork from where it is now, then I could see MJ Morris getting a shot. They're going to build an offense around the run game, okay? That includes Edwards' feet, and that includes the running back you mentioned, Roman Hemby, who honestly should help them in both facets. Good receiving back to a really good check down option, 77.7 rushing grade last year as well. These two guys together are going to have to be the engines of this offense, right? Read option game, design run game for the quarterback. Hemby, I think, in the screen game and things like that can help them out a lot. You talk about similar receiving numbers last year, getting pretty close up there to a Bucky Irving, who's now in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers. These are the types of things. It's going to be much more conservative, right? Talia was a downfield passer. He wanted to grip it and rip it and throw downfield. That's not going to be the case with this Maryland team. They need to run the football with these two guys to succeed.
Absolutely, man. Second most receiving yards among all Power 5 backs last year, like I said, behind Bucky Irving. And, the year before, he had 988 rushing yards and 315 receiving yards. This guy's a really, very versatile back, so I think he's going to be the focal point of Maryland's offense next year. Defensively, I mentioned that secondary is their biggest strength, and I think Glendon Miller is a big part of that, their safety. He was the most valuable player on Maryland's team last year and one of the 20 most valuable safeties in the country, according to PFF's wins above average metric. 83.4 coverage grade, top 20 in the Power 5. although he's listed as a safety in our database, he actually spent most of his time at slot corner for Maryland. 3 interceptions and 32.9 passer rating allowed from the slot. Both those marks were top 3 in the Power 5 as well. So athletic player, really good footwork, and he's one of the better slot defenders that we have in college football right now. All right, Dalton, bottom line time now. I mentioned before, Maryland's had 3 straight winning seasons, which they haven't done in 20 years. Do you think it'll be 4 this year, or what are we expecting out of the Terrapins in 2024?
I'm a little worried, Max. I think there's a road where they can put together the run game and the defense and kind of do things a bit like Rutgers does it, where it's like they didn't have a whole lot in the passing game last year, but they're wicked physical and they play good defense. And you have, Rutgers has Kyle Manun guy who I'd probably put ahead in the rankings of Roman Hemby, but they're going to have to scratch and claw. I'll be honest with you. I think losing Tagovailoa, it's big, right? That's that's the best quarterback Maryland's had in a long time, maybe ever. The Big Ten's all-time leading passer. He was pretty good from the pocket. He could improvise a little bit. He just gave them that dimension in the passing game that gave him a chance, right? I don't know really what they have in their passing game right now. It's tough. Whether it's Billy Edwards or MJ Morris, it's like 2 guys with small samples. Edwards we saw can really run the ball. He can, but can you get away with that style and just not being able to throw the ball maybe at all? I'm a little concerned for this team offensively. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, so am I, man. I really am too, and really it's just because of that quarterback situation. Because like I mentioned before, I like what they have at receiver. I like what they have at running back, but they need stability at quarterback, man. And if they have another winning season this year, it'll be the first 4-year stretch of winning seasons since the 1980s. So really great stretch there for Mike Locksley, but they have great talent on both sides of the ball, I think, in terms of the receiving core and running back and like I said, the secondary before. But they could surprise some teams because of that, but they need to find out who the quarterback's going to be. And Billy Edwards Jr. or MJ Morris, they got to show a lot more than what they showed in backup roles, because when they came in for their respective teams, they did not look that great at all as passers. So that's the big question for Maryland. And you mentioned before, it's almost a cop-out to say, oh, it depends on the quarterback, because it does for every team. But this is one of those schools, man, where it's like it really depends on the quarterback. Because if you get a stable quarterback, then yeah, absolutely, it could surprise a lot of teams to have another winning season. But if not, it could be a rough year for the Terrapins. That's what we got for our preview of Maryland heading into 2024. Again, we are doing this for every one of the 70 Power 5 teams entering 2024. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single one.